Anyway, The Witcher. The Witcher, Season 1. What a TV show. What a long saga we had on this channel. If you remember last year, we started playing The Witcher 1 in November of last year, or maybe even like October or something. And then we played through the entirety of The Witcher 2, we played through the entirety of The Witcher 3, and now we're just capping this entire saga a year later by a review of The Witcher TV show. How close was it to the games? How good was it in general? I think that's what I'm going to be focusing the most on. I have two disclaimers at the beginning before we begin. I haven't read the books, so I can't compare it to them. And also, spoilers ahead, obviously. This is a comprehensive review, so I'm going to be talking about things that, are revealed later on in the season as well. But yeah, for those of you that just completely missed this entire me playing The Witcher, not knowing what The Witcher is or anything like that, The Witcher is a fantasy, this time a drama television series created by Lauren Schmidt Hisrick. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but she has some successes under her belt. She's written a script for television series such as The West Wing, and a very, very good Aaron Sorkin TV show, and Justice. She's also written and produced shows such as Parenthood, Do Not Harm, Private Practice, Daredevil, The Defenders, and The Umbrella Academy, which from like those that I know of this group, they are at least like kind of mid. So she is pretty experienced. She did work for Netflix, and I mean she knows what she's doing when she's making a TV show, basically. But yeah, as I said, it is based on the book series of the same name by Polish writer Andrzej Sapkowski. Set on a fictional, medieval-inspired landmass known as the Continent, The Witcher explores the legend of Geralt of Rivia, Yennefer of Vengerberg, and Princess Ciri. Stars Henry Cavill, as you can see over there, as The Witcher, Anya Chalotra, and Freya Allen. The first season, consisting of 8 episodes, was released on Netflix on December 20th, 2019, and was based on The Last Wish and Swords of Destiny, which are collections of short stories that precede the main Witcher saga. So, to put things into perspective of those of you that played the games or, seen me play the games, these events are apparently happening, or the events of the TV show are happening before the events of the video games. If you remember from Witcher 1, and it's also mentioned in Witcher 2 and Witcher 3, the Witcher is suffering from amnesia. He doesn't know much from his past, but this is sort of the past that we only got like a glimpse into during the Witcher games. And we're starting with episode 1, The End's Beginning. A very cool intro, indeed. You start off in a forest, a very tranquil little forest, and a little deer sort of grazing by a lake at night. Very atmospheric. But then out of nowhere from this little lake, very tranquil lake, a massive monster just appears, and it's battling a witcher. Geralt, and they're mid battle, and the monster like looks pretty cool, and eventually, of course, Geralt bests it. But a very nice sort of like immediately connecting both the basis of or sort of like the base building stone sort of the TV show, which is both the atmosphere as well as the action, which is in fact very original, as I later found. The monster design is pretty cool as well. Nothing like special when I compare it to other similar TV shows or films, but pretty good. Pretty good. One thing that I noticed though is, and something that worried me at the start, was I was worried a little bit that the TV show would prefer style over substance. That it would go for like cool shots or cool scenes rather than having like a powerful story to put underneath it. These worries were later dispelled, fortunately. But the reason why I thought it at the beginning was because there was literally a baby deer grazing by this lake in the middle of the night. Everything was super quiet and super peaceful, and then out of nowhere this massive monster appeared from this lake. with the Witcher in like an insane battle. And I was wondering, like, how the fuck did everything stay so tranquil that a baby deer could just walk up straight to where they were battling under the water? Were they under the water for like an hour? I don't know. Kind of strange, but I mean, this is just a little thing. Later on, these worries were dispelled, as I said. Yeah, the writing straight off the bat, I knew that it wasn't terrible. There's another thing that I was a bit worried about, because pledging myself to watch an entire season of like hour-long episodes with shitty writing would just feel like torture to me. Luckily, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't torturously bad. It was decent. There was some sort of like borderline cliche writing, like Geralt saying, "More and more I find monsters wherever I go," sort of referring to people being disapproving of him and being like essentially behaving like dicks to him. Sort of a double entendre between him, hunting monsters and people being the real monsters, stuff like that, which is pretty like pedestrian. I found, but it isn't terrible. Also, welcome Volk. I'm glad that you are here. I'm very happy. I thought that not many people will join us today, but hey, I appreciate it. Finally, series review. Indeed. I hope that you watched it as well. I wouldn't like to spoil it for you. And it's finally something I watched. Hell yeah, Volk. That is good. That is great. Well, feel free to barrage me with as many questions and comments that you want. As you guys know, these reviews are meant to be a discussion between us. That's why I'm streaming them and not putting them up on YouTube yet. I mean, I will maybe put this one up on YouTube, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. The visuals are absolutely striking. Straight off the bat from episode 1, it is very clearly just a bunch of like really awesome sets, great world building. Like you have all of these different countries that come into play. The villages are really worked up. They're massive sets. They are like whatchamacallit, they are like huge castles and chateaus and all of that, like really big sets. Like they really did not pull their punches when building up this world. I really appreciated that, for sure. Like it's like some of it compared to Game of Thrones almost, not like the entire show, but like some of these sets, which is great. Netflix budget, honestly. Thank God they had that. Yeah. Also, another, like, okay, so here's the thing, right? I didn't read the books, so I'm gonna have to do some comparisons. Oh, 5 push-ups. All right, I'll do them after the review. Some, maybe remind me, because I might forget. This is gonna be a long review. Yeah, so I won't be able to compare them to the books, compare this TV show to the books, but I am from time to time going to compare it to the video games, because video games are very much story-based, and I believe they tell the story as much as this TV show does. Otherwise, I wouldn't be playing it in my story video game slot, I suppose. And much like in the video games, lore of this world is just thrown at us at breakneck, borderline confusing speed. Straight off the bat, episode 1, there are talks about like the prophecy of apocalypse, about babies being born under an eclipse, suffering through some sort of a curse, and then there's this sorcerer who believes that they need to be eradicated, and then there's another sorceress who happens to be one of the children born under the eclipse that once this guy killed because he killed all his sisters and stuff. Like it's a lot straight off the bat with both the characters and at the same time the lore. And this show never really got back to this whole story. This whole story was kind of like resolved in episode 1, but it talked about a prophecy of an apocalypse that was never referred to again through like the other episodes. So I feel like that was like unnecessarily deep, that first story there. But I mean, you do have to kind of get the attention of people in episode 1 to an extent. And I mean, historically, episodes like episode 1s, which, you know, are sometimes called pilot episodes, used to be done just like this, you know, like loads of story being explored and a lot more action than perhaps in the following episodes, because producers used to do like pilot episodes for, or like the creators used to do pilot episodes for like heads of production companies to show them what this show is going to look like, what it's going to feel like. And stuff like that. So pilot episodes tend to be like even grander, but that wasn't the case in this case, because they already built like these insane sets, so they were going to do at least one season, you know, like they already did, you know, secure the bag at that point. But I was a little disoriented for sure. Yeah, it's usually good to begin first with something to hook the viewers. Yeah, for sure. That is another thing, of course. It's not only for the production companies, it's also to hook the viewers. And I'm not gonna lie, having a massive battle, a massive medieval battle on a field of like massive armies charging against each other, and then shots of the fights going on and the chaos and everybody dying, but you know, all in like the medieval setting. That's something that gripped me pretty much instantly. In episode 1, they showed an epic battle on a field in episode 1, and I was like, holy shit, show, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool for sure. So yeah, visuals, you know, from the sets to the battle to as well the magic. I'm going to have to talk about the magic. I wrote it down into my notes in several of the episodes. The portrayal of magic in The Witcher is just amazing. Magic is, I think, difficult to portray in cinema at this point, because it's been used and overused so much that it is very easy to slide into some cliche, you know, red sparks flying through the air like in fucking Harry Potter. Or something like that. Like loads of shows do it like this, and that you know, it's difficult to portray it well, to portray it in an interesting manner. But here, they really did something, I think, quite original, because the magic that's shown here, it sort of does like a ripple through the air. Like you can't really see it. You just can see like the air slightly moving or slightly morphing, or you can see like branches sort of growing up, or the earth sort of like shaking, or like a mist going through. Like it's feels like very natural, very kind of like real. And because the magic is also very well portrayed in the story as like sort of like chaos that some people can sort of manipulate in a way, and you know, the world is filled with chaos and people can manipulate it. To visually show that so well without it being like really crappy, really cliche, is another big, you know, good check mark in my book. I mean, Nilfgaardian armors were a joke, even though I enjoyed Armor of Forces of Rivia. I did not see the Forces of... I don't think Forces of Rivia... Do you mean Sintra? I don't know, maybe you mean Sintra in Season 1. But yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on armor, that's Yubulk, so I guess. But listen, it's a fantasy show, alright? Also, welcome Shadow to the stream. Thank you very much for joining us, for joining the last review of the year, probably the biggest review in our history. I know I ain't hearing you bashing Harry Potter in the middle of December. No, do not worry, but if I knew I was here, I would have known that you would immediately call call me out in the chat. No, I was not bashing Harry Potter. I was saying that the like portrayals of magic are overused. Harry Potter films are quite old at this point, and they've established how they show magic already, like in like the third or fourth film. So Harry Potter is like off the hook. You know, it was kind of like the pioneer there, but I feel like it's been used so much. So if you show magic the same way that Harry Potter shows magic, like now, it's like it seems like cliche and kind of tired. You know? Yeah, Sintra. I know, but I allow enjoy fantasy even impractical. I allow and enjoy fantasy even impractical armor. Okay. That's better. Alright, no worries. I mean, I know that you like Harry Potter. I like Harry Potter, of course, myself, too. I watch it every year. No worries. I'm not fucking shitting on Harry Potter. No worries. Nilfgaard didn't please me visually in coolness and design. Interesting, interesting. So yeah, Nilfgaard, for those of you that don't know, the battle that I was referring to was Nilfgaard attacking Sintra, the northern kingdoms. So I guess, yeah, so Nilfgaard is this like big, you know, empire that's sort of mostly the bad guys in The Witcher, in The Witcher stories. And I did not notice that. Like the main thing about Nilfgaard is that they're like black riders and they're wearing all black. And yes, their armor looked a little bit strange. It was like it looked almost like paper a little bit. It sort of like futuristically, but it felt kind of fantasy to me, so I didn't notice it. But interesting that you it just looked cheap. That is a good point. Yeah, like maybe yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Like Nilfgaard is supposed to be this you know, powerful rich empire. Also, I'm fairly sure, and I mean I didn't read the books, but I'm fairly sure like this story being written by a Polish author, I think that Nilfgaard is supposed to like represent Germany. But maybe I'm looking into it a little bit too much. It's like, for example, you know, Lord of the Rings, you have Mordor being the German sort of, and the Hobbits being the English, and all of that. But Nilfgaard with like its very expansionist tactics and the way that they speak, for example, in the games, and the way they just like spread across and are this like rich, powerful empire. It feels a lot like Germans, you know. Nilfgaard is basically Holy Roman Empire with the Habsburgs. Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. That's what I meant. And I mean, they also have like the black coats of arms, and they have the eagle as their thing, you know, as their everything. Yeah. Oh, a nice hug for Shadow. We love to see that. Yeah, Geralt talking to his horse. Like that's the first thing that I noticed that I didn't quite like. That felt, and again, this might be the same in books. But it feels like even if this was done in books, it feels like it's like a writing shortcut. Because Geralt, throughout the episodes, like it was first in episode 1, that's what we were still talking about, sort of like expresses his feelings to his horse, which is like a writer's shortcut essentially of looking into like what's he thinking, sort of, and that's kind of cheap. I don't like shortcuts like that, and it was done more often than I would like. Thanks, boy, I love my Friday hack. Nice. By the way, guess what Cotier is doing right now, Shadow? Okay, and now we are towards the end of episode 1, right? And I'm going to... Alright, like, Volk, I want your opinion on this, since you, like, you know, you do this medieval martial arts or whatever. I have never in my life been cooler sword fighting than in this TV show. The way Geralt, like, not only the way Geralt fights, but also, like, how it's shot is incredible. Like, I got a massive rush every time I saw it. Like, my jaw literally dropped when I saw Geralt, like, just fighting through the thugs in the market. And not only did he just like jump around and like have like one sword like this and the other sword like this, but he also like used the art sign, if you remember from the video games, where he just like did like this, and you know they flew back, sort of like Fusroda with his hand. Extremely cool, and there are no like quick jump cuts or shaky cam or anything like that. It's extremely well choreographed. You kind of believe it because he is a mutant, you know, like he's not a human being. So you just see this incredible dude just plowing through everybody. And the music is perfect for it as well. Like it's really thrilling to the max. Yeah, medieval enthusiast. Nice. I would call myself a medieval enthusiast as well. Well, I mean it's better than average. Oh, but I want to be I want to be nitpicky. Some of the guys he killed should be alive and able to pierce his back. But I enjoyed him reflecting the. Oh yeah. Deflecting crossbow bolts. That was how the fight started. Like the thugs lined up. One of them shot a crossbow bolt at him. There was like a slow motion, and then the slow motion stopped, and he just like stopped it with a sword. Very epic indeed. And they're replacing him with big ass loser Liam Hemsworth. Yeah, that is something that I think will piss me off a lot more when I finish season 2. Season 2 is still with Henry Cavill. But yeah, I'm gonna have to like look into that, like why that happened. It is actual technique. It is an actual technique to reflect arrows that can be done with a bow and a sword. It can? Wow. Like in real life? I would not try that. I would not try that. But yeah, after the battle, essentially, I don't want to go too much into like the plot, because if I talked about the plot of these episodes, we would be here like 8 hours from now, and wouldn't do anything else but talk about what just happened, or what happened in this TV show. But suffice it to say, episode 1 ends with Geralt saving the day, and rowdy townsfolk essentially whipping him out from the town because he's a mutant and nobody trusts the Witcher, like Witchers in general, because they are mutants, they're not human beings. And that's how it ends, and I would say an overall very good start, because he had the portrayal of Geralt, who he is, his attitude towards like prophecies, and how he wants to avoid all these things, how he mainly wants to fight monsters, how he's a great fighter, how he's very, you know, how he's fairly emotionless, and how, you know, regular people hate him for being a mutant. So great start. Visuals immediately gripped me by themselves. The story was fairly decent as well, like nothing terrible there. And yeah, I was excited for episode 2. I can tell you where Cavill is leaving. Is it something that will spoil season 2 for me? Because I definitely do not want season 2 spoiled for me. In armor, but hey, I made it 3 times. Really? Oh my god, Volk is the Witcher. Volk is Geralt. That is insane. Also, yeah, Volk, I'm really excited that you're here for this review. That is awesome. Okay, we move on to episode 2. Episode 2 is called 4 Marks. And this is where we are introduced to Yennefer of Vengerberg. If you've been following the video games on the channel, you know who Yennefer is. She's this like really imposing sorceress, this beautiful, extremely smart and ambitious and witty woman, sorceress, that Geralt is in love with. And we're introduced to her as she's being bullied by some farmyard children, or not children, but young or youths, and she's being abused by her father, kicked into the mud, and she's also a hunchback. I actually don't know if this is like politically correct to call people with hunchback that, so correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not, then I'm just gonna keep calling her hunchback, I suppose. But yeah, this is one of the monsters that I was talking about. Pretty good portrayal, I would think. Nothing special. So yeah, very surprising start for Yennefer, because I remember her, of course, as this incredible conventional beauty of like incredible power, and here she's just like a peasant girl that's being, you know, abused by her father and everybody in the village, and just having to clean the pigs and everything like that. She looks like a 10-year-old. You mean Yennefer? Maybe? I don't know. She didn't look like a 10-year-old that much in the... She looked young, but not like... She looked like, you know, 18, 20 in the show. So maybe that was just a bad picture. I mean, at the moment, Ciri is supposed to be no older than maybe 14. Yeah, but that's somebody else. We're talking about Yennefer now. So yeah, having Yennefer, like, be there as a peasant girl with a hunched back, being you know, abused by everybody, was an interesting start that I for sure did not expect, and I was very curious about how they're going to transform her or what's going to happen to her. So immediately good setup for that story as well. We also get to meet Dandelion in this episode. The instant chemistry between Geralt and Dandelion is Geralt being annoyed that Dandelion keeps following him and wanting to tell his stories and stuff to the other people. But despite their chemistry being pretty good, their reason to be together was, I would say, quite poorly done. Because Dandelion just kind of started following a dude he literally just met, and the stories he heard of him was just that he killed a bunch of thugs in like a different village, and that he is a witcher. So I struggled to see his motivation in following Geralt there. That wasn't explored at all in the TV show. So again, this is sort of where it started. Like, I don't know, it isn't like a big issue, but what started here is that this TV show very often sort of takes shortcuts in the storytelling, which is a shame because it doesn't have to, and they very often tell an awesome story, but sometimes they just, I don't know, they just take a quick shortcut that it just feels like they didn't put their best effort in, which is quite unfortunate in terms of the writing. Oh yeah, I have something to say about Yennefer. Okay. Is he the Witcher's version of the donkey in Shrek? Yes, that is what a great what a great simile there, Shadow. I assume that you haven't seen the show, but this is literally what I thought when I first saw them traveling together, because they had a very similar kind of chemistry, and as you know, like, the chemistry worked. But the issue there, the issue with this is that in Shrek, Donkey had pretty like good motivation. It was pretty well explored, and there was some kind of a build-up between Shrek and Donkey, where I haven't seen it in a while, but I believe that Shrek saves Donkey, and Donkey feels like beholden to him. And also, Donkey, given the fact that he was sold by his previous owners, doesn't have anywhere to go, and seeing that Shrek is sort of like a loner himself, and having saved him, he sort of like stays with him because he literally has no other option. Dandelion, on the other hand, just decided to leave the tavern where he was a bard and just went off with a random stranger that just appeared, you know? I mean, yeah, he's a horny bard. Yeah. Also, here is the armor that Vuk was talking about. This is the Nilfgaardian armor, and like, I mean, I see what you mean. It is a bit goofy when you look at the different textures. I hate it. I get that. Yeah, it's not something that I noticed particularly. It does very much not look like any medieval armor that I've ever seen, and I don't understand the patterning on it either. It is a little strange. You're right. Eat this shit and throw it away. Yeah, I mean, I get that. Did you just call my smiley creepy, Shadow, in Discord? What the hell? That's crazy. This is a regular smiley. The Discord made it creepy, I suppose. I just did colon fucking bracket. It looks like garbage bags when you think about it. I don't know if it looks like garbage bags. It doesn't look great, but I'm not sure if it looks like garbage bags. Also, episode 2 gives us a better look into what magic is like in this world. It sort of takes the magic that we've already seen and puts it into context, because Yennefer is called, she's actually sold to some sorceress that takes her to Aretusa, this kind of like wizarding school, a school of witchcraft and wizardry. It's not called that, but it's pretty much Hogwarts, and they learn about magic. But the way they learn about magic is very different from what they learn in Harry Potter. And the explanation that we get for magic is actually pretty cool, because the sorceresses that we see there, the young sorceresses, they only just realize that they have this power, so they need it to be explained to them by the head sorceress, who is the character of Josiah de Vries. And the way she explains it is like pretty cool. Like, she says, listen, you can't really conjure something out of nothing. That just doesn't, work. That doesn't make sense. You always have to, take this power from somewhere, redirect that power. What you essentially do is manipulate the chaos that's all around you. So, for example, like, the first lesson that they had was, I believe that they got a flower and a rock in front of them on a table, and they were told to make the rock levitate. And, they were trying, the rock would not levitate, and one person, did everything the one sorceress tried everything to make the rock levitate, and the rock did levitate, but her hand then shriveled completely, and, it nearly killed her. Or just injured her. But then it was shown that, like, when you pick up the flower, Tisaya picked up the flower and made the rock levitate, and the flower waned immediately and the flower shriveled, essentially showing that the energy that they use to conduct that magic has to come from somewhere. And that little explanation, like, even though it's quite simple, and I mean, the scene was, I don't know, like 3 minutes, it puts so much stuff that we see in the rest of the season into context, just through, like, the different magic that it's made. It's just really helpful in kind of like exploring this part of the story, and that's what makes for good storytelling. I thought it was my duty to call you out immediately. I guess it is. That sounds like something stupid like I said recently, didn't it? Did I say that? At some point I might have. I don't know if it's your job, but I appreciate that you do it sometimes. Okay. I also like Dandelion, sort of like, is, other than the fact that he has no reason to follow Geralt at the beginning, he does serve a pretty good purpose in episode 2, where they arrive on some kind of field, and he says, like, okay, these are the fields where elves used to live, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, cool, thanks, Dandelion. And then he was like, well, here I am delivering exposition. And I was like, yeah, I mean, yes, that's what you did. I mean, I was just about to write in my notes, like, that he's just delivering, like, he's just an exposition machine. But first, the thing that he called it out, that sort of, like, immediately kind of stopped me from writing it down, because it's at least self-aware. But then I realized that these stories, the way they are written in the original books and also in the game, they are all written by Dandelion. So if you look into your journal in The Witcher, it's all written in the like, from the point of view of Dandelion, talking about The Witcher in third person. It's not The Witcher writing his journal, it's actually Dandelion writing about him, what he's done and stuff. If you remember from when we played, There was lots of like, then the Witcher decided that he would help the poor villagers of, I don't know, Roskilde. I don't know why I said Roskilde, it's a Danish town. And so it would make sense that, you know, that sort of like is framing there. Unfortunately, this like sort of like started to be a thing, but then they didn't really push it anywhere in the later episodes. But it was like a nice touch there. It was a nice touch. I mean, he has kind of this reason that he is a young bard that needs inspiration for his songs, and most bard gets inspired by warriors. Yeah, I mean, that's a good explanation of Volk, but the show didn't come up with that. You know, like that's something that we can, I guess, assume. But from the way it looked, is that he just went out of the tavern where he worked and started following the first stranger that showed up there. You know, and other heroes and wars. But it's more of headcanoning. Headcanoning? What do you mean by that? Episode 2 is also where we started to have this split between storylines. We had Geralt and his story. We then had Yennefer, what was happening to Yennefer. And then we had Ciri. All sort of like in different areas, different sets, and different things happening to them, different sets of characters affecting them, different character motivations and all of that. So very contained, like self-contained, separate storyline that were running simultaneously. That coupled with a medieval fantasy vibe sort of reminded me of Game of Thrones. Obviously, it's not as massive as Game of Thrones when in terms of like just how many storylines there were, but it did remind me of that, and it did just as well in containing all these storylines and having them having them be interesting and gripping for like different reasons. You know, like it genuinely gave sort of like dynamic to the whole TV show, or the TV show as a whole. Headcanon, something viewer has to... Oh, like that. Okay, yeah, I know what headcanon is. I just never seen it used as a verb. Headcanon is something viewer has to explain in his head and make it work in the story. Yeah, at least that's my explanation for this term. No, you were very correct. There's a very good explanation. Look, you are correct. Yeah, I've just never heard of headcanoning, but it makes sense. It makes sense. So yeah. But that's the thing, you know, like you can headcanon the shit out of everything. But at the end of the day, you need to tell an effective story. Like the way I write, for example, is like I have the way I write stories that have like they're like open to interpretation. So they are very often quite abstract. They don't, you know, make sense on like our plane of existence or something. They somehow lack that sort of like grounded feel, just so people can look at it and think about like what it was actually about, you know. But like I don't let just people like assume stuff or that are pertaining to the story itself, like, you know, like how my characters did that or why my characters did that. My characters as well as their storylines are contained and they do things that make sense. What is open to interpretation and your headcanon is your assumption as to what it means, or like what is it referring to, or what the entire story was actually about, you know. But here, like, I feel rather than leaving it up to headcanon, what they do is they just take shortcuts and do not explain everything to the level that I would like them to. Sunglasses on, also after the review. Looks like we're gonna have a lot of fun after the review. Okay. I mean, sometimes reader has to assume that a hero woke up in the morning and ate breakfast because then books would be no. Yeah, but those are irrelevant things, you know, like that's something else, look, because you, like, what were we talking about were actually relevant things, like Dandelion following Geralt is very relevant to his character motivations, right? He is one of the like important characters in the story, so we have to understand why he's doing what he's doing. He has a he has a set of character motivations. There's some kind of character development for him, some character motivations for him. Um, and a character arc. So we need to understand these bits in order to, fully grasp this character. It's a relevant thing why he started to follow. What isn't relevant is why he was in that pub in the first place. We can just assume that, like, I don't know, he wanted to make money, and this was like the closest pub to where he was born or where he worked before or whatever. Like, that doesn't matter why he was in that pub. What matters is why he left with Geralt. We get treated to some more lore expansion in this episode as well, in terms of, like, elves and how they were genocided by humans in the world of The Witcher and the continent. And this lore is actually delivered very simply, but also, like, in comparison to episode 1, it wasn't as extremely overwhelming as it was before. It was just delivered to Geralt that was bound on the ground, and elves just, telling him what's been happening and stuff. So it was quite simple, but also not overwhelming, which is good. Yeah. Also, in episode 2, I started noticing that the show has a very good grasp on, like, leaving some things mysterious. And I'm not talking about what we were talking about before, about, like, shortcuts in exposition or shortcuts in storytelling. Here, it's more about, like, not understanding why things are happening exactly as they are, but they are sort of, like, behind-the-scenes things. Like, that's sort of, like, how I felt when I was watching Harry Potter for the first time when I was a kid. That, like, I knew that there was some, like, crazy magic going on in the background, but I didn't understand it yet. Same thing goes sort of for Game of Thrones. Like, you didn't know why one person betrayed the other person or why one person was behaving the other, like, some way, but it was always later explained. And that sort of gives you the feeling of, like, sort of understanding the story but not understanding the whole picture. And that is difficult to do, but they did it very, very well. Which is, again, what surprises me, why they do these storytelling shortcuts from time to time that are just plain lazy. Because they are able to do the difficult stuff. It's just that sometimes, it feels like sometimes they just get lazy on the job for some reason. Even though they're capable of great things. But yeah, episode 2 was overall pretty great. Storytelling-wise, I think it improved for sure. The plot lines, the separate plot lines started crystallizing by themselves, being more self-contained, which was pretty awesome too. Okay, episode 3, Betrayer Moon. The world's most subpar mod is here. Oh, Tony's here. What?
Hell, Yaku, cheers, Yaku,
Holy
cheers,
shit.
Yaku, cheers.
Thank you, Flash, for the 13 months. Welcome. You arrived just with Tony. I just got a little bit of a flashback there. I was surprised by both of you arriving at the same time. I thought, because you're a red, Tony, I thought you were actually Cotier, so you were talking about some kind of a mod for Sea of Thieves. But no, you mean you being a moderator. Indeed, a little bit subpar, since you're almost never here, but welcome, dude. I appreciate your presence, and I hope you're playing some Valo with us today. So we'll be playing Valo a little bit earlier as well with Cotier, so hey, welcome. I appreciate that you're here, This is the last Friday review, the last Friday stream of the year. Yes, me the mod that stops when I can. Hey, I appreciate it still. Also, yeah, welcome, Flash. Hopefully, you've seen The Witcher. Or if you haven't, then I hope that you don't mind some spoilers, dude. Yeah, Tony's here. You guys having the same color and also having 3 badges and also both being mods confuses my eyes. It's a happy reunion, I see. But yeah, episode 3, Betrayer Moon, pretty good. It had a great start. There's this like a slow exposition of a man of like pretty much a young man, like a boy almost, dying on a bed through like a massive scratch mark, saying that he was attacked by a Vukodlak, which I really appreciated because it sounded like he said Vukodlak, which is werewolf in Czech. And there was this connection to the original source material, of course, being Polish. And I was like, yes, Slavic, Slavic language is awesome, great stuff. And at the same time, it was a very kind of like somber, slow exposition. It was kind of scary. I mean, it wasn't scary, but like it was like this. It's a very somber atmosphere. And very cool indeed. Also, episode 3 is where I finally noticed the show's work with eyes is just really, really amazing. Like Geralt's eyes, Ciri's eyes being like azure blue, like deepest or like lightest azure blue. Yennefer having purple eyes. It's really like kind of powerful. You know, it sort of like signifies their power as well. It's, you know, eyes are the doorway to the soul, and in this show really uses it to the maximum degree. Look, please, Jesus Christ, this will destroy me. I like the thing. God damn it, guys. My chat. Extraordinarily confusing, dude. Yeah. Also, The Witcher, when he uses his Witcher senses, his eyes turn completely black, which is also pretty cool. But yeah, that's just me gushing over the visuals. The visuals were, to be honest, fucking amazing in this show. I don't know, I didn't notice anything wrong with them at all, so that's a big 10 out of 10 for me, for sure. But yeah, the music pretty good. Not as good as like Game of Thrones, for example, or Westworld, like some of these like massive TV shows, but like definitely above average. The main Witcher theme, I really appreciate. I would play it for you, but since this review might end up on YouTube, I don't want it to get claimed, you know. I mean, it doesn't matter if it gets claimed because I won't get any money from it anyway. It's like a couple of views, but like, I went like the last review. One of my reviews got like shut down, and it's unlisted because I used some copyrighted music in there when we're talking about what was it called, Whiplash, I think, where I showed you some scenes from the movie that we talked about, and it just got shut down. The video got shut down. Alright, man, oh my god, look. Nice try. Luckily, you have a very long name, so I immediately knew that it wasn't Cotier. Okay, look. Okay. Thank you for switching back to the orange. Okay, yeah. Talking about visuals and eyes and stuff, also the world building is yet another thing that, you know, isn't part of the main storyline, but it's done very, very well. Like lots of the peasants, I believe they are Temerians. I'm not quite sure. The show doesn't do very, very well in telling us like who's from where. It's sometimes confusing, but many of like the peasants in, I believe, Temeria have like heavy Slavic accents, like Polish, Czech, these kinds of like accents in English, which is again a great touch. They had a similar thing in the games as well. Like, they had these kind of like different accents. The dwarves had like Scottish accents or Northern English accents, but having Slavic accents in what I only assume to be like, you know, the fantasy medieval equivalent of Poland is pretty cool as well. Great world building there for sure. Then we were introduced to Triss, which was my first major letdown in terms of characters. Triss in the video games, and once again, didn't read the books, but in the video games, she's this like really free-spirited, fun, witty, and sometimes even like a little reckless character. In this show, she's like constantly concerned, sort of like, you know, she has the vibe of like a mouse, you know, that she's like really concerned like what's happening and stuff, and like always like worried about stuff and extraordinarily careful. And seems almost like not confident, which is like the complete antithesis to Triss, like to Triss from the games. You know, yeah, her character for some reason was just very, very different. I don't know if any of you guys have read the books. Maybe you can let me know if she is the same as she was in the video games or in the TV show. I assume that if it was, like, I'm kind of assuming that Triss was better portrayed in the video games. I would think that Triss was more like she was in the video games in the books, you know. But I don't know. I'm an orange boil. Thank you, mate. All sorceresses are supposed to be more confident because of magic. Yeah. I mean, she wasn't like scared, as in like a normal peasant. You know, she was still a sorceress, but she seemed like too concerned about stuff and being more like powerful in the way they act. Yeah, exactly. And she wasn't there. Oh my God, we have another orange person. Welcome, Ricardo man. Welcome to the stream. Thank you for joining us for the review. Last review of the year. Triss is better depicted in the video game, closer to the books, I feel. Oh, Ricardo man, you've read the books. Fucking hell. Finally, we have somebody that read the books. That is great. Also, have you seen the TV show? If you've read the TV show and, if you've read the books and seen the TV show, then I implore you, stick around, because, hey, these reviews are discussions, and the more information we have, the better the review will turn out, won't it? It's like this power that they feel inside themselves, yeah. So I sort of didn't feel that in Triss, but more so that I wouldn't believe that she's a sorceress, more so is that I remember the Triss from the video games, and I just felt like, this isn't my Triss. Triss was my favorite character in The Witcher 1 and Witcher 2, after The Witcher, of course. In Witcher 3 it was Ciri, but Triss was always like one of my favorite characters there, and it feels like they did their character dirty here. And yeah. Okay. This episode also brought about another disappointment that I had in a character, but not in a character themselves. I'll explain, okay? Yennefer. Last time we saw her in episode 2, she was eavesdropping on some of her friends getting the ascension, sort of like being accepted as sorceresses and being like very, worried and scared. And not confident at all. She still believed she did not have any success in any of the classes where she was shown. And here, and towards the end of the last episode, she was actually accepted for the ascension, and everybody else, like her friends, were turned into eels and put into a pool. I don't know, it kind of confused me a little bit, but long story short, she was in the end accepted, but she was still like this scared hunchback girl, and she never really got anything. She never really changed in that way. But here, as episode 3 starts, she talks about all of this as if it was like a million years ago, right? She says, remember the scared little girl that tumbled in this cave? And she says that in like confidence, looking confidently at her lover, and being like this, even though she's still a hunchback. She has all of this confidence, feeling like a big sorceress, and I'm like, how the fuck did that happen, huh? So Yennefer sort of turned, at least psychologically, into the Yennefer that I know from the games, out of absolutely nowhere. Okay, and that was a big shame, because I was very much looking forward, as I said, to the transformation from the scared little girl into this like imposing, powerful sorceress that's like super confident and can just steamroll over everybody that I remember from the game. I was really looking forward to that development, and they absolutely fucking botched it. They shortcutted it to the maximum. I think this was the single biggest character shortcut that the show has just ever done, or like in the series, in the season. Just scared little girl, bam, super confident sorceress out of nowhere. No development, no change. Everything that we saw from her was some kind of a failure. And yeah, now she's just a confident sorceress. What changed? Nothing. It was a shame. I read the first 3 books and watched the 2 seasons of the show as well. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. Oh my, Flash. That is quite a consortium of emos you have there. You have the Yahoo Cheers, the first terrible emo that I put up, and Steve, Minecraft Steve. Nice. Oh wait, I have to talk about something. Alright, Volk, we're here. We're waiting. In books, all sorcerers have to be castrated to be able to use magic safely because magic fucks with genetics. Ah. Well, while in the show, they had to castrate them to make them prettier, and that's it. Yeah, so here's the thing. That's another thing that's later explored in the episodes. I would talk about it as well. Might as well talk about it now. She is, you know, she loses the ability to have children during her transformation. And it is kind of assumed that it was because she was pretty, but that's also never explained in the TV show, right? And that all ties into this conundrum with her transformation that didn't much make sense to me. Essentially, what happened, right, was that Triss was looking at herself in the mirror, and she had that head sorceress, Tisaya, telling her that she needs to accept herself for who she is, and that, you know, look at the mirror, you are beautiful. And I'm like, okay, so this is going to be a story about her accepting what she looks like, even though, you know, she's very unhappy with what she looks like. And I'm like, okay, fine, that's good. But then, you know, she has this like elven lover, and she finds out that he was just using her to get more information, and she gets mad and gets like this plastic surgery or whatever, where she becomes this incredibly beautiful character. And I'm just looking at it like, well, what was the point of her accepting for who she is? Like, what is the point of that scene then? And also during this like plastic operation or whatever, she, like, there's something they take out of her, I assume, like a uterus or something. This is pretty gruesome. But essentially, she loses the ability to have children as part of this like plastic surgery. I'm just gonna call it that because I don't know, like transformation or whatever. Okay, let's call it transformation, right? Physical transformation. And but the thing is, she essentially forced the person that does the transformations to do this. You know, the person even said, listen, if I do this, like these other sorceresses will have my head. Like, yeah, I can't do this. And Yennefer's like, well, you will do this. And eventually he does. And later on in the following episodes, she's mad at the sorceress's lodge that this happened to her, as if she didn't have a choice. But the TV show clearly communicated that it was her choosing of going through that, you know. That's a big L. I'm not sure what you're referring to now. Oh, yeah, they had to castrate them to make them prettier. You mean of the show? Yeah. So the show doesn't quite communicate that clearly, because it's only Yennefer that's worried about that sort of thing, and it isn't very much explored with the other sorceresses. So I didn't even pick up on that. But yeah, it's the TV series definitely doesn't say that. Like, if they did, then yeah, that would be a massive L, because I mean, that is a horrible thing to imply, quite clearly. I mean, it just got into my head, like, yeah, that'd be terrible. But the TV show doesn't even say that, you know, like, they just do it, and it's not explained why it's been done, and it also has been done under the duress of Yennefer herself. So it's a bit of a confusing little situation there, you know. I mean, the fact that she got the surgery is so stupid. Yeah. But the thing is also, like, The TV series made it sound like she didn't have to, because the head sorceress that sort of like called the shots of like which sorceress is going to go wherever. She showed Yennefer as, you know, being this hunchback looking in the mirror and telling her, listen, you're beautiful, accept yourself, accept yourself. And I'm like, yeah, sure, that's good, that's a good, you know, that's a good story of a person accepting herself for who she is. But then she's spurned by her lover and goes for the plastic surgery. And that is just that is an L by itself. That's what I was talking about. And fun fact, Geralt's mother was sorcerer that wasn't castrated, which is the reason why Geralt is so unique of a witcher. Oh, interesting. They toned down Yennefer's changes to touch a bigger audience. I see. Wait, what do you mean by Yennefer's changes? Guys, we need to pick this shit up. We're only at episode 3. It's 8 episodes. How the fuck am I getting through this? Yeah, I literally wrote, what is the purpose of Yennefer coming to terms with her disability or deformity if she's immediately going to go to basically plastic surgery right after she's spited by her lover? Yeah. So yeah, that was a bit of an L. Going back to The Witcher, we were treated to some great fighting once again with a Striga, with another monster. So that was, you know, very well done. Yen's transformation was a bit sloppy. She looked like fairly, like she looks great and stuff, but like I don't understand why they had to do it this way. It seemed odd. And also the episode ends with her walking into a big dancing hall where she's transformed into this, you know, conventionally beautiful Yennefer, and she like struts around and everybody's like everybody's jaw drops, and it's literally like the fucking terrible cliche from the 90s movie of like the ugly girl walking down the stairs after having her makeover and everybody looking at her and like, oh my god, she's beautiful now. That was that was a bit of an L. In Shadow's words, that was a bit of an L. So yeah, no, that was so weird, dude. But yeah, let's move past that. Episode 4 of Banquets, Bastards, and Burials. Alright. This episode was very big in revealing to me, or revealing to the audience, one major thing that we didn't know before that. We are dealing here with several different timelines. And here is sort of where all this shit comes to the real, you know, scope of this entire series. Because Ciri's story is essentially of a young princess running away from a castle that was raided by Nilfgaard and taken over by Nilfgaard, essentially being told by her dying grandmother that she needs to find Geralt of Rivia, that he is her destiny. And this dying grandmother now appearing younger in episode 4, in a fully functional castle and everything. I'm like, how the fuck does this happen? And then I realized, oh, this is a different timeline. So Geralt of Rivia this entire time, alongside Yennefer, presumably, were in different timelines than Ciri was, which just blew my mind, and I realized that now we're in the danger zone when it comes to the confusion that can be spread from not only following several different characters, but also following several different timelines. No, Nilfgaard. I said Nilfgaard, dude. So yeah, I literally wrote, holy fuck, I only just realized that we're dealing with different timelines here. I was wondering how they're in the court of Sintra. Sintra is like the castle, the whatever. And then I see a familiar face. The grandmother of Siri stroll into the hall. Very cool in the show's part. No hand holding at all. It just leaves to figure it out on your own. So yeah, like, it is, like, apart from the danger zone in terms of confusion and stuff, it is fairly, fairly ambitious to write in several different timelines and having them sort of all convalesce, because that is difficult to do without confusing your audience too much, and at the same time develop these stories separately. It is pretty insane. That's why I was confused by the story. I didn't realize the timeline or so apart. Oh, and I feel dumb. No worries, Book. No worries. I mean, here's the thing. Okay, it is pretty cool that the timelines are not like, we are not handheld at all. Like, I found that pretty cool because the show leaves you to figure it out on your own. Because you see all these people and you're like, well, these people are dead. How are they? And then you realize, like, different timelines and stuff. But there's nothing at all talked about, like, that this happened then, this happened now, and stuff like that. So you do really have to focus in order to grasp what's happening there. And I don't mind that. But then again, you run into the risk that some viewers might not see that. For example, like Volk didn't see that, you know, which. Again, like, I kind of respect the boldness of that kind of writing, especially if you want to make a TV show that's more accessible to more people. It's quite something. It's quite something that you have to figure all this shit out on your own. They try to do the same thing as the first book, where Geralt is being healed somewhere and is telling stories. One story equals a chapter. Timeline is bad when you watched it for the first time. I mean, I grasped it, but, like, here's the thing, right? I am not a casual viewer in this context. I think that if I just watched it for my own amusement, I probably would have been just as confused as Volk. The reason why I caught on to it, like, immediately as it was, you know, revealed, was because I'm literally writing, like, I have 8 pages of notes next to me, guys, okay? I have 8 pages of notes. Whenever I was watching The Witcher, I was not drinking, I was focusing, I had my notes up, I paused it every time and wrote notes as I was watching the episodes. So, like, that's why I noticed it. But yeah, maybe, like, if I was watching casually, I would not grasp that at all. So yeah, it's a TV show that you definitely have to focus on, at least season 1. Which of course makes the mistakes that they make in writing that much more apparent. You know, it's definitely not like a completely casual TV show as it would appear to you, you know? Like, you would think that The Witcher is just gonna be, like, fairly casual sort of TV show. But it isn't. The issue with the timelines, especially, like, in this middle part, is because it is, like, that you don't have only 2 characters, right? It would be fine if we only follow the story of Ciri from timeline B, which is later, and the story of Geralt from timeline A, which is earlier. But the issue is, you also have Yennefer, and there is nothing tying Yennefer to any of these characters for at least the first, like, 5 episodes. So you have, like, 5 hours where you don't know what happened when, and there's no way to know, because Yennefer is not hanging out with Ciri in timeline B, and she's not hanging out with Geralt in timeline A. She's later on hanging out with Geralt, but it's only later. So you don't know where Yennefer is, or rather when Yennefer is. You don't know. Yennefer could be in a completely different timeline, and you would not know that. So that, it's difficult to say whether I disapprove of it or approve of it. Like, I don't think I have an issue with it either way too much, but that's maybe just because I really focused, and maybe it is a little bit too confusing. I mean, Volk found it confusing, and you, a Cardamon, also found it confusing, so maybe it is. But I'm not gonna lie, I kind of liked it. I kind of liked it. That it made me think, you know? In this episode, we were also treated to some magical combat, which was very epic indeed. Well, I say combat, it's more like trying to flee. Yennefer trying to protect the Queen of Aedirn as they are attacked by assassins. So sort of what she does is that their convoy is attacked. Yennefer opens a portal and runs into it with the Queen. They appear in a completely different place. So they were in like a snowy forest, and they run into a portal, and suddenly they're in a desert, like in the middle of a desert. And I'm like, what? Holy fuck. Game of Thrones didn't do any shit like that. You know, there were cuts obviously from like Winterfell to, you know, then later on different chapters sort of in wherever in fucking Essos, right? When they were like in deserty place. But never have I seen characters just portal instantly into a different dimension or like a different place altogether. That was so cool. And it didn't even stop there, because another portal opened and the assassin alongside his monster also appeared. And so Yennefer was forced to open another portal, and they were just in a town. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening? And then another portal opened, they realized they were being tracked. So, you know, Yennefer took off some stuff that they could have tracked the queen with, and then opened another portal, but then the monster started you know, or rather the monster started jumping on them. So Yennefer stopped it with her hand, sort of like stopped it mid-jump, and it was like just floating in the air. And with her other arm, she opened a portal. The queen escaped through the portal, and then she had to run. It was crazy stuff. Eventually, Yennefer escaped and left the queen behind, realizing that the assassin was sent by the king that she was serving. And she always hated the queen, and the queen was saying that she's a useless bitch and stuff. So Yennefer is like, fuck this, and just left. And I found that kind of amusing as well. It was very, very cool. We were also introduced to another bit of important plot development, the law of surprises, which is something that I wanted to talk to you guys about as well. So essentially, the law of surprises is when like in this world, right, in the world of The Witcher, when you save somebody's life, you can claim the law of surprises. So essentially, I save, I don't know, or Vilk saves my life, right? And all right, and Vilk says, okay, blah blah, I claim the law of surprises. And the law of surprises essentially is that when I go home, the first thing that I see, I have to give to Vilk. And that could be some fucking wooden rake, or it can be my literal child, okay? And so, you know, this is the thing that works there, and there's like destiny is almost considered like an entity in this world. So like most people just follow this shit, right? So all of this was sort of explored, and also it gives the explanation of why Ciri is searching for Geralt, because during this banquet in timeline A, Geralt saves the life of Ciri's father, and when he claims the law of surprises, they learn that the princess is pregnant. So by law of surprises, Ciri belongs to Geralt. Interesting, very interesting for sure. If the first thing you saw was a door, yeah, then I had to carry a literal door. Yeah, so like if we don't count the door, the first thing that I would see would actually be my basket of keys. So I have a basket of keys by my front door. So I would have to give Vilk the keys to my flat, the key to my office, or not, the key card to my office, and the key to my fucking car. So yeah, Vilk, you would get my car if you claim the law of surprises on me. to carry the literal door. No, you're still at the door, dude. You would have my car. It's fine. I need to remember that. Yeah. Luckily, no law of surprises in our world, guys. So yeah, overall this episode introduced us to the concept that there are more than one timeline, which started to be quite confusing, but also pretty cool in my opinion. I didn't mind it that much, and it also provided us with character motivation for Siri from timeline B, so it sort of like went back and explained what is happening with Siri there, which is pretty cool indeed. Episode 5, Bottled Appetites. Oh, Jesus Christ. I've finished like a liter and a half of this green tea, by the way. Bottled Appetites. We were introduced to Dopplers, which are essentially entities, not really human beings, or more or less human beings, that can transform into any human being that they see, or, look at, or stare at intensely. Which was quite interesting for sure, because that then developed into sort of the hunt for Siri. Siri was hiding in this forest that was like magical, and then like Nilfgaardians that were revealed to actually have invaded Sintra only to get Siri due to a prophecy. Because she's special in some way. She has these powers around her. Like every time she's hunted by someone, she screams, and the earth around her just drops and stuff, and like crazy stuff like that, right? I didn't really talk about that because we can't talk about fucking everything. We're already reviewing this shit for like over an hour, okay? So anyway, they're hunting her, but they can't enter the forest. So what they do is that the Doppler takes one of their prisoners, essentially the mage or the druid of the Sintras that sort of like helped raise Siri, and as sort of like appearing as this druid, the Doppler then enters the forest and leads Siri out, which is an interesting plot point, again using that sort of magic, that fantasy, these fantasy rules that I remember at least from the games, interwoven it into the story very, very well indeed. And it's explained very well. There's no hand holding, but it is understandable. Great exposition, works very well. I remember in Poland we joke about this law of surprise, that the Geralt in our world would need to carry a fucking furnace. Really, a fucking furnace? Is that the first thing you see when you enter your house? You see a furnace? You have some weird apartments in Poland then. That was the meme. Ah, I see. In this episode, when we move to Geralt, I got a little annoyed because Dandelion goes to him and says, "Oh, Geralt, how long has it been? Days? Months? Years?" And when he said that, I'm like, don't fucking do that, because that confuses things even more. Because Dandelion literally said that from the last time that he's seen Geralt, which was last episode, it could have been days or months or years. So now we don't know if we're in timeline A or timeline B or some completely different timeline, which was which kind of sucked, kind of sucked that they did that, for sure. Yeah, Yennefer's character sort of like is pretty well done at this point, even though her development into who she is pretty, like, at that point is pretty jarring. She is now sort of this confident, powerful character that I know from the games. So like her development in that sense, in like her confidence, is fairly fairly done, which is pretty good as well. And also, this is where Yennefer and Geralt meet this episode, which is pretty interesting for sure. They have like instant chemistry between them, very well handled as well. And their story sort of starts interwoven because this whole episode is about a gin, which is why it's called Bottled Appetites, because gin is in a bottle, you know, and appetites, they have sex and stuff. Yeah, they have good names for these episodes. And essentially, this is, although we learned this in later episodes, but I already knew this from the games. This is where Geralt and Yennefer also get bound to each other, because Yennefer looks like she's going to die to the Djinn, and the only way to stop the Djinn is to ask for the final wish, which Geralt does, and his final wish is something like to never be separated from Yennefer or whatever. It's never really exactly said in the TV show, but I remember this from the games, and that sort of stops the Djinn and also makes Yennefer and Geralt meet each other in the world randomly, which is a great explanation, of course, probably not thought of by the TV show, but by the author Andrzej Sapkowski. That, you know, that's sort of like makes for the randomness of their meetings. It sort of explains it, you know. It's not like Deus Ex Machina kind of shit. They are actually destined to always meet each other. Also, I don't usually talk about this in reviews, but the sex scene between Yennefer and Geralt was I've never seen anything like it, because the music there was kind of like funny and cheery and jolly, and I don't think I've ever seen a sex scene like that. It was pretty funny, for sure. But yeah. Good writing was once again shown as Ciri was towards the end being led away by that Doppler that got into the forest, if you remember, from me telling you. So the Doppler sort of like appearing as the mage, or the druid rather, sorry, from Sintra, he goes into the forest and tells her, hey, you know, we have to go, come on, you know, I found Geralt of Rivia that you have to find, blah, blah, blah. And the people that saved her, they're some sort of elves of the forest. They tell her to stay vigilant because she's powerful, and to always ask the right questions because people will try to trick her. And she's being told that as she's being led away by the Doppler, a person trying to trick her, which was a nice little, you know, like, you know, it's like not really foreshadowing because we know what's happening, like it is happening in that moment. But it's a nice little like mise en scène, if you will. Episode 6, Rare Species, gave me another bitter disappointment in one of the principal characters. I don't know if it's actually the principal character, but one of the major characters, okay? Dandelion. Now, Dandelion is more often called Jaskier in this TV show, and I think that's the same person, right? Like, I'm not confused by that. I don't think I am. Anyway, so he in the video games, and I assume also in the books, because from what I've heard, what I've seen, the video games tend to be more of a like a better interpretation of the books than the TV shows. Well, Jaskier is his Polish name. Oh, okay. Yasmin is Polish for dandelion. Jaskier. Oh! Also, welcome, Spud. Thank you for that unexpected Polish lesson, dude. Do you speak Polish? Or you're just a big fan of The Witcher? Anyway, welcome to the review. I'm glad that you are here, my friend, because biggest review of the year. Also the final one. Welcome, Spud. Welcome. Wait, Jaskier is yes, the latter. Oh, big Witcher nerd. I appreciate that, dude. Jaskier is dandelion in Polish. Is that true, Volk? That's interesting. You know what's dandelion in Czech? Pampeliška. Completely different. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So this is what his name would be in Czech. This thing. That would be a fucking weird word. Or sorry, weird name. But anyway, I was talking about the disappointments. All right. Down the line in the video games is this very like fabulous, cool, charming, sort of horny, yes, but also like very artsy and very like quick-witted, seductive guy. Who can seduce pretty much anyone. But in this show, like every time he talks to women, he's more like a little cringy ass fucking twerp, and he's just like, ugh, like he at the beginning of this episode, there were like these two warrior women, and he goes up to them, and like they look at him like angrily because they're warriors, and he like stumbles on his words and says that they have a very sexy neck, and I'm like, what the fuck are you saying? What the fuck are you doing, dude? Like it was really cringy. It was really cringy, not fabulous at all, and it was a big disappointment there. There's also a disease called Yaskra, glaucoma in Czech. Oh, interesting. A rare species was my favorite episode of the first season. I'm not shitting on the episode. The episode was pretty good in itself. It's just that it started with a character disappointment for me. Yen and Geralt crossing paths again, even though it's not explained yet, it makes sense because the Jinn, because of the Jinn wish that we talked about in the last episode. And also it didn't feel that artificial because Yennefer does actually have a reason to be there. For those of you that haven't seen it, Rare Species is an episode about Geralt, Yennefer, and a bunch of different competing groups going to a mountain to slay a dragon for some reward. And Geralt is first doesn't want to go, even though he's told, he's asked by one of the guys, one of the older dudes that's apparently this is like his last hurrah or whatever. Geralt doesn't want to go, but then when he sees Yennefer is going, he wants to go himself as well, which is a good setup, along with the great setup of the entire story, essentially being different competing groups going towards the same goal. So yeah, when it comes to like story setup, definitely the best in the entire season, and when it comes to this episode, for sure. But yeah, the issue now becomes, and this is like where all of this sort of come to a head, in the whole timeline conundrum. We talked about this before, Spud. Maybe you can weigh in as well. But here is where the timelines got a little confusing, even for me. I'm not saying like even for me as in like I'm the best when it comes to watching TV shows, but even for me, that I'm literally like staring at the screen like that, writing in my little notepad, alright? Like I wasn't watching it casually, okay? It got confusing even for me, because at this point I didn't know which timeline we were in. We know for sure that Ciri is in a different timeline than where Geralt was in episode 4, because in episode 4 Geralt was on a banquet with her grandmother, and Ciri wasn't even born. So we know that's timeline A and timeline whatever B, right? But now there is Geralt and Yennefer together. Yennefer, in previous episode, said that she has been working for the Aedirn Court for 30 years. Okay? And all of these events with Yennefer, like in these episodes, is after those 30 years. So at this point, we know that Yennefer at the beginning could have either been in like timeline 0, while Geralt was in timeline A, and then Yennefer got into timeline A by working for Aedirn for 30 years. Or it could be that timeline A with Geralt at the beginning was also timeline A for Yennefer, and then it was 30 years where Geralt was just like hanging around and we didn't know anything about him, and suddenly it was 30 years later, timeline B, and Yennefer was there in timeline B as well, these 30 years after. Or it is something completely different, and there's timeline A for both Yennefer and Geralt, then timeline B for Yennefer and Geralt together, and then there's timeline C of Ciri just being by herself. And at this point, you can see how separating it into different timelines while also following different characters simultaneously but separately is confusing as fuck. I hope that you understood that little explanation. Geralt chilling timeline. You think the second episode with Yennefer's introduction happens long before anything else. What? I didn't even think that, and I finished the fucking season. Like, how the fuck are you supposed to know that? You know? Like, listen. I had two people in my chat spot before you arrived, both Vilk and a Cardamon, that... No, Vilk didn't know at first that it was different timelines going on in this TV show, and a Cardamon said that it was confusing for him on the first viewing as well. Like, I realized that it was different timelines, but it was such a conundrum there that, like, I still wouldn't, like, call it bad per se. Like, I still enjoyed that they tried this and they kind of did this and fairly well, because they did close it off in the end fairly well. But, like, even though, like, how it was set up is okay and how it was ended was pretty good, the middle of it just has to be confusing because they didn't explain it at all. Okay? And, I mean, you have at least 3 hours of confusion with time, and that's something that has to be pointed out. There's pretty good symbolism as well with Geralt essentially hunting a dragon who is, you know, said to be the rare species from the name of the episode, and then, you know, being called out also a rare species because the Witchers are no longer, you know, they're dying out and they can't make new ones. So that's pretty good symbolism as well. Yen and Geralt's relationship sort of blossoms in this episode as well, although it comes crashing down in the end. But that all feels reasonable. These two characters have the most chemistry out of everyone, which is good, because these two characters are the most important to have chemistry. And they have some of the best like natural chemistry as lovers that I've seen in a while, so that's good as well. Alright, I've got to shoot, sorry, to only be in for, maybe I'll catch you later for Valorant. Hell yeah, dude, I'd appreciate that. I would appreciate that. If you could play as well, it'd be amazing. But yeah, see you in a bit. But yeah, the whole story is resolved in a very, very interesting way. Because as they're trying to get to the top to the dragon, the old man starts falling and he's like holding on to the chain, but it appears that the chain will also take Geralt with it, and because Geralt is holding it, and the old man decides to just like not drag the Witcher down with him and just falls down into like a huge drop with a mist underneath, which, you know, shocked me, like what the hell, like out of nowhere. But it was pretty cool because I really definitely didn't expect that. We later learn that this old man is actually another dragon that's traveling up there to protect the other dragon, because the other dragon laid an egg, and the warriors that are with him, the warriors with sexy neck, as Jaskier told us, they are there to protect them as well, which is pretty good, yeah. Pretty good ending there. Alright, episode 7, Before a Fall. In this episode, we spend some time with Ciri as well. We really see that Ciri is sort of like getting molded from like a scared child. I mean, she's 14 years old, or like around that age, like a young girl throughout this season. And we see that like she's starting to become a little bit more confident, a little bit also more stoic, like because she was traumatized. Like it's played very, very well by, I believe it's Freya Allen that plays her. You know, amazing. Again, another child actor that does very, very well. So she very well kind of explores the both like the hurt little girl at the beginning to like the traumatized silent girl to also like the determined confident girl, and the development works very, very well throughout the season. because it's very gradual. It works together alongside alongside the other storylines. Every time we go back to her, we see how she's sort of like gaining somewhat on confidence, but also still being a little bit scared because I mean she's a child. So yeah, that works quite well. Two, the action, I mean, I didn't talk about it for a couple episodes now, but they're just not dropping the ball on it at all. Like it's incredible how like some of these moments are just so creative. So like the Witcher goes into this castle of Sintra because he goes to claim Ciri. And this is apparently after this whole, you know, episode with the dragon. And he meets up with this mage, with this druid, because this is still timeline A, right? And then then they are both hunted down by the knights because they want to kill the Witcher on the orders of the grandmother, who doesn't want to relinquish Ciri. And the Geralt, knowing that he might not win this fight with all these knights, he takes the druid and puts him in front of him. And as the warriors come charging, the druid is forced to open a portal, and they both portal away. So that's a very cool little action there as well. Hydrate, very good. I can do that right now. Cool. Thank you. It's a good idea, actually. There's lots of caffeine in that green tea. I'm giving myself water. I might give you water as well. That's very, very nice of you, dude. Very nice. Yeah. Episode 7 also started the job of tying the 3 timelines together. They did it quite well because we see how, you know, how like why, like it's further cemented why Ciri is looking for Geralt, why she's sort of tied to him through destiny. And there is once again issue with character motivations that I had to point out. There was no reason, like, I mean, there was a reason, but like it wasn't explored or wasn't realistic to the character of Geralt to go back to Sintra to fucking to go claim Ciri, because this entire time the character of Geralt, which is very true to the video games at least, where he doesn't give a fuck about destiny. He says like, whatever, I don't care, I make my own destiny and stuff. But now he's going to claim Ciri, even though before he really didn't want to, and it was just by an accident that she's bound to him. And he doesn't seem to believe that she's bound to him. But now suddenly he's in the castle because he saw an army approaching, and he's like, I have to protect this girl because she's bound to me. But like, you don't really believe that though, do you? Like, I mean, at this point you do, but how? Why did you change your mind in that sense? I mean, was that just the army approaching there? Like, I don't know. It seemed odd. Yeah, I wrote Geralt's sudden turn in wanting to defend Ciri because the destiny ordains it is pretty poor. Completely 180 on his character motivation. The entire show he didn't believe in destiny one bit and didn't want to take care of a child. Nothing changed except that he was dumped by Yen. That was at the end of the previous episode, and that's some pretty shitty reasoning. Yeah. Yennefer then returns to Aretuza and sort of like starts exploring her past, where she was like this poor peasant girl that she was always bullied and everything, and that feels sort of like shoehorned in. Like, I mean, like, I don't know why exactly she returned there. She was told by a random mage that head sorceress said that she was her best student, even though like that turned out to be a lie, but it's still like she still believed it, which was weird because she was only shown at failing in literally every single class that the TV show showed us. So that was kind of rushed, kind of weird, and it was essentially just a pretense to get her, like on the show's part, it was a pretense to get her to be there when they learn about the Nilfgaardian attack, and Yennefer like having to decide whether she's going to help the Northern Kingdoms defend from the Nilfgaardian attack or just stay out of it, essentially. Well, in books, Geralt actually visited Ciri before the siege, looking over her, having some kind of bond. Well, yeah, that's great. Like, that would work. That would work. But the show didn't do it. And once again, I'm saying, like I said this before in like other reviews, TV shows, movies, books, it all has to stand on its own 2 feet. And The Witcher mostly does. It's just that in these things, like sometimes it just like drops the ball a little bit, takes a shortcut, takes away some part of the story that either it didn't feel like it had the time to or didn't want to fully explore, and that leaves gaps at that point. And I mean, I'm just gonna call them out for it because it has to work on its own. Like, you can't just say, I mean, I know that that's not what you're doing, and I'm glad that you explained it to me, Book, because now it makes more sense to me. But like I'm saying to everybody else, in case you do want to write like a TV show or something, like it has to stand on its own 2 feet. Like an explanation that thing makes sense in a different source material is not good enough. But yeah, episode 7 is like does well in explaining the different timelines. Sort of, it's sort of like there's some sort of like a resolution there, but fairly big inconsistencies in principal characters. As I said, both Geralt and Yennefer. What I explained there. All right, we start off episode 8. Much more. That's the name of the episode. Much more. In like sort of with Geralt trailing Ciri. We see him like going through all the different places where Ciri was, because at the end of the last episode he was actually trapped during the siege in Sintra, and he had to escape the castle after the siege, or after the after it was broken down, after it was actually captured, Sintra. And he like sort of starts tracking Ciri and going through the different places where she was in like this refugee camp and everything like that. He has to fight off some ghouls and is like severely injured, saved by a farmer. Pretty like good storytelling there. I like that it sort of felt a little bit like Witcher 3, the game, because most of that game we were on the trail of Ciri as well. So that was like a little bit of a callback for me, at least. That was nice. So yeah, that was good. I'm just saying, in what books are better than show on this topic? Oh yeah, like in my, I mean, I might be a little bit, I might not be entirely impartial, seeing as though I am a writer and I only write books, or I intend to publish my book that I've already written. But books are definitely better. In storytelling, listen, you can't have visuals with a book, obviously. Can't be the cool visuals. You can't have the same feeling from a visual because you don't have visuals in books. But when it comes to telling the story, books, in my opinion, will always be superior. For sure. But again, that is just my opinion, and not a very impartial one. But yeah, we're introduced to another cool creature, another big callback to, I assume, the books, but also the games, because there are a bunch of dead bodies at the refugee camp that was also raided by the Nilfgaardians, and they were not buried. And whenever bodies are not buried, like large amount of bodies aren't buried in the world of The Witcher, ghouls appear. So The Witcher has to fight them off as well. Yeah, also this episode sort of provides this massive battle that I already kind of talked about before. There are these sorceresses trying to defend the north from the Nilfgaardian attack, and that is pretty cool. We have lots of magic combat. That was awesome. But I'm once again reminded that I really don't like Triss's portrayal in this show. As I said, in the video games, she's like daring, free-spirited, and at times even reckless. Simply put, a lot more fun. In this show, she feels like she's constantly concerned, like a scared little mouse almost, and yeah, it just feels not right, I mean, House of the Dragon is a show that improves storyline of certain characters, but this show isn't our topic today. Yeah, I'm still don't know. I still don't know if I want to watch House of the Dragon. Like, I still feel so hurt by how much they absolutely fucked up Game of Thrones Season 8. that I just don't want to get back into it for some reason. Like I'm still like, I don't know, it's like trauma. It's crazy, dude. Another weird thing when it comes to characters, like in their motivations, Yennefer and Tissaia de Vries, who were shown for most of the show as being like either rivals or Tissaia literally bullying Yennefer before she ascended to become a sorceress, they always had a fairly negative relationship. Over here, they're behaving and talking to each other as if they were best friends. I mean, yes, they are in a battle on the same side, and Yennefer did decide to help out Tissaia. But having them being like almost fully bonded here is again jumping the gun. Not ideal. Not ideal when it comes to like character writing, for sure. But it does set up quite well Yennefer finding her purpose, because she, throughout this entire show, she feels like she has no purpose because she can't have a child. She wants to have a child. And then as Tissaia looks to be like dying, she doesn't actually die there, which was weird because it looked like she was dying. She sort of finds her purpose. Yennefer finds her purpose, and in like now I have to defend the Northern Kingdoms from further Nilfgaardian attacks, and that is going to be my legacy. That was pretty good. Also, very epic. Yennefer sort of saving the day in redirecting the fire from the castle that they tried to defend into the woods, into the approaching army. That was amazing visuals once again. The battles just out of this world. Very epic indeed. The season, and again, spoiler alert, sort of concludes with Geralt getting up from this cart of the farmer that he was carrying him on. Geralt for this whole episode was just hallucinating because he was bit by a ghoul and was just like back as a child with his mother, and it was kind of interesting. But it sort of ends with him getting up, sensing that there's, you know, that Ciri is near, and going into the forest, because Ciri was also saved by the farmer's family, by his wife. So Ciri goes into the forest. He meets her, and Ciri runs to him, and they hug, which, like under normal circumstances, given the fact that they don't know each other, neither of them have ever seen each other, it would be like a little strange, and it might come off as a little cheap to some. But I felt like it was pretty good, because for Geralt, who felt like he lost his purpose with Yennefer, and was like always thinking and struggling about his own mental, about like if he, like people kept asking him like if like what he would be if he wasn't a witcher, and like if he actually enjoys this, and like does he have emotions, does he not have emotions. So he's sort of like lost throughout this whole season, which is also like this you know, sort of like under the main themes, this sort of like minute theme that keeps developing. And then he finally has something to go for. He has Ciri, and he sees her, so obviously, you know, he's happy about that. And Ciri, who's on the run, these Nilfgaardians, doesn't know who to trust, and the only person who she really trusted, her grandmother, died, and the last thing that she told her, you know, go find Geralt, and now she sees her, so that's sort of salvation after an entire season of her running away. So them hugging together despite never meeting, it does actually work, and it was a very nice emotional ending. And that is it for episode 8. Holy fuckamoly, dude. I think this is actually the longest review for at this point, yeah. Oh my god, it's 10 o'clock already. I reviewed this for 2 hours. My god, dude. Longest review ever, man. Oh. I mean, Yennefer and Triss were friends before Geralt smashed Triss. That's a detail we can't forget, my friend. That is cool detail, but again, not explored in the show. In the show, he didn't even hook up with Triss, so that's something else. But let us move to the conclusions, my friends. We are nearly there, and then we move on to some crossword. Holy shit, dude. Oh! I finished the tea. This is my last cup, okay? My god. Okay. In conclusion, enjoyed this show very much. There were some issues, some mistakes, but they did not overall take away from my enjoyment of the TV show as a whole. I mean, shows are longer than movies. Yeah. They are. But I mean, still, it's 8 hours, you know? Fucking hell. Okay. So yeah, very surprised, very pleasantly surprised. I did not expect it to be this good. I honestly expected it to be a bit of an L. And I expected it to be like a little shit, but I still wanted to watch it because I felt this made like a good conclusion to the Witcher trilogy that we played. But yeah, new storylines springing up very naturally and logically. They follow the plot overall, but sometimes they are either resolved too quickly or make a huge jump. I felt, like we talked about. The writing is not perfect. It's not awesome. It leaves a lot to be desired. But it's better than I expected as well. So it's decent. It's decent for sure. The writing, and when I say writing, I mean actual dialogues. Like there was barely any cringe dialogues, any like too simplistic or too unnatural, unrealistic. It felt all right. I mean, it's also helped that it's a fantasy medieval world, so there is some kind of leniency in the way characters can talk. The reason why I did not expect it to be this good is also because The Witcher, I believe, is more known for its video games than it is for its books. And like TV shows and movies based on video games have historically been like utter trash. So, good on them for not having it like this, I have to be honest, I wasn't convinced to watch 2 seasons. It was like, alright, but it didn't hook me. Really? Interesting. I'm definitely gonna watch season 2. Like, it wasn't like awesome when it comes to like the writing and the story. I mean, no, the story was pretty good. The writing, I mean, I'm usually hooked by like good writing, and the writing wasn't amazing, but the story was pretty good. The visuals were amazing, and the way that the story was told with the different timelines, although slightly confusing, I liked that there was no hand-holding, and it was very unique in that sense. But yeah, talking about the timelines, I feel like separating the story into at least 3 timelines during the season wasn't a bad idea by itself. It made the story more dynamic and interesting, as I said, and it usually did pretty well in tying them all together. Especially at the end. Like, that's the thing, like, even though the timelines were a tad confusing for like 3 episodes straight, they did tie them together very well in the end, and it didn't leave confusions that I needed to be resolved at the end. So at the end, all of it was resolved. The confusion was left in sort of like mid-season for me. So yeah. When it comes to character betrayals, I'm only comparing it to the video games, but here it goes. Geralt, awesome. Yennefer, pretty good. I'm not saying awesome only because they botched her development and I didn't quite understand why she was a hunchback at the beginning, told to accept who she is, and then she just like did the plastic surgery. That was a bit of an L, as Shadow put it. And also, she, like, her jump from being a scared little bullied peasant girl that did some self-harm, and then changed to an absolutely confident, proud sorceress. That was a change that was not shown. That just happened, and that was a bit of an L as well. Ciri was great. Jaskier or Dandelion was poor. I mean, his like storytelling and stuff. He's a bard. That was an alright portrayal, but he was more of a twerp. He wasn't as cool of a character as he was in the games. Triss was a completely different character in this TV show, and the biggest disappointment for me, for sure. So yeah, that is what I thought. What did others think? Let me know. And as you are letting me know, I will let you know what others thought. Rotten Tomatoes, for example, collected 91 reviews and identified 68% of them as positive, which is not great. with an average rating of 6.26 out of 10. The website's critics' consensus reads, though the world of The Witcher at times feels only half-formed, Henry Cavill brings brawny charisma to a series teeming with subversive fantasy element and dark humor. I don't agree with that. I don't think that the world is half-formed. I actually enjoy the world building, and although confusing at times in which sort of area we are at, like which country we are at, for example, and maybe the culture can be explored a little bit more, half-formed is a bit too harsh, in my opinion. Metacritic calculated a weighted average score of 54 out of 100 based on 17 critics, indicating mixed or average reviews. So overall, general reception of the peeps is like slightly above average, which I think is a bit harsh. But then again, like, I came into it not expecting much, so I was pleasantly surprised. That obviously sort of like, you know, makes it a bit difficult to judge it fairly. But I genuinely enjoyed myself watching this TV show. I was looking forward to watch it every evening, and I would recommend it. I would recommend it to people. I don't know if I would recommend it to people that have not seen or anything from the Witcher saga, whether it be the games or the story or the books. Given the fact that I mean, I was really into the video games, you know, and I played all three. So I mean, I don't know if a person that does not know anything about this whole world would enjoy it themselves. Because I was already kind of familiar with the world, you know, and I wanted to see these stories. I mean, like, only for the visuals and for the action, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool in that regard. The way magic is portrayed is fairly original. The characters themselves are pretty cool, as in, like, alright, interesting. They're not, like, amazingly interesting. It's no Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Shout out to Shadow. But they are interesting enough to keep your attention. The stories are quite interesting. The timeline separation, although confusing, does add more to the story. It does definitely make it more dynamic and more unique, and I think that's another reason to watch it, in my opinion. To, like, you know, check this out, because it isn't just average. It isn't barely above average. I think it is above average for sure. Like, I would give it 7.5, I think. Yeah, something like that, 7.5. So yeah, I enjoyed the show when I watched it originally. The second season was also pretty good. I didn't know you even watched it, Kotier. Well, I'm glad that you chimed in at least at the end. Do you have anything that you would like to add or anything like that? I look forward to see season 3. Well, I'm not sure about season 3. I heard that, I mean, Shadow said it as well, that they are putting Liam Hemsworth as the Witcher, and he is a bit of a bitch, so not sure. But I'm not hopeful for season 4. Why not season 4? He's joining in season 4. Oh, I see. I thought it was already from season 3. Okay, I understand. Does anybody know why Henry Cavill is no longer doing it? Does he, like, not enjoy it anymore? I thought he's a gamer. Well, I mean, I'll check it out, sure. But yeah, this was the longest review I've ever done. Yeah, it definitely is. Holy fuck, dude. We started reviewing this at 8:15 my time, and now it's 10:15 my time. So yeah, fucking 2 hours. 2 hours straight, dude. Oh my. That is something. Well, we can keep talking about it, but it is, in my opinion, crossword time. Thank you very much, everybody, for chiming in. I hope that you enjoyed the review, and I think I will just leave it here. All right.